Hello viewers, you are watching English service of Amhara Media Corporation Heber channel. I'm Birhan Workne with the grand stories. Stay tuned. Central Bank announced that Ethiopia will allow foreign banks with limited license as initial step. According to National Bank of Ethiopia, allowing foreign banks in Ethiopia in a gradual process will give the sector an opportunity to take the right experience that can fit into the country, as the number of licenses will be limited as an initial step. The details will be presented as follows. National Bank of Ethiopia Financial Institutions Supervision Deputy Governor Solomon Desta noted, allowing foreign banks will bring plenty of benefits for Ethiopia in general and the banking sector in particular. The Deputy Governor added, pertinent mechanisms will be implemented to cope with all the challenges, and the plan is to capitalize the positives that the foreign banks will bring to the industry and reduce challenges as well, stating that the gradual process of allowing foreign banks in the Ethiopian banking industry will give the sector an opportunity to choose and take the right experience that can fit the country. Solomon said the number of licenses to be given for foreign banks will be limited, with the limited branches as an initial step. The Deputy Governor underscored capitalizing on the good experience and reducing the consequential damages will be our prioritized activities to be undertaken. The other priority is diversifying the activities of the incoming foreign banks, just not to concentrate on limited cities, companies and individuals, it was learned. According to Solomon, working on capacity building and monitoring mechanism is pivotal. It is to be recalled that the Council of Ministers decided last month to open up the banking sector to foreign investors, which was only local bankers. Commenting on the implementation of the policy, Ethiopian Economic Association Professor Mengistu Katama said, when we say let us open our banking industry, it does not mean let it be open in a disorderly manner. Working on macroeconomic stability, enhancing the capacity of local banks, and the supervision and monitoring mechanism of the National Bank need to be prioritized, he stressed. The economic researcher Fatana Bogala said preparation on well-planned supervision mechanism and capacity building in human resource and technology are crucial to cope up with the newly incoming sophisticated technologies with foreign bankers. For him, allowing foreign banks in gradual process will be beneficial for the country and for the local bankers, enabling them to take lessons and enhancing the competitive capacity of the bankers through time. Countries that have allowed foreign banks with maximum caution and careful preparations have been successful, while the rest which have allowed them without sufficient preparation suffered a lot. Country Representative Mamadou Diana Balde stated that with huge reconstruction needs and massive affected people in Tigray, Amhara and Afar regions, UNHCR will continue supporting the affected people with everything it could in partnership with the government of Ethiopia and donors. Fukradi Zaudu has the detail of story.
In an exclusive interview with Ethiopian news agency, the UNHCR representative noted the conflict has affected people in Tigray, Amhara and Afar, stating that his office is supporting thousands of Ethiopians who were displaced by the conflict in South and North Wallo, North Gondar, Sekota and within Tigray. He added that it will continue providing support to communities. Furthermore, he underscored that those are all the needies that need their support and attention, and their organization is within Tigray, Afar and Amhara.
My office is ready to support as much as we can. We have capabilities, we have human beings, we have sometimes some financial support that we have been providing and that we will be continuing to provide. I know that the reconstruction needs are huge. The suffering has been massive. People have lost their houses, and this is an area where UNHCR contribute to. So for UNHCR as an agency, but also as part of the UN family, we get ready to support as much as we can. We need the support of the international community.
He stated the UNHCR would like to see greater access as early as possible, adding that the United Nations agency works closely with the government of Ethiopia. According to him, the peace agreement is essential not only to resume normal life, but also to be able to restart services like education, health, shelter, water, and sanitation needs. Commending the peace agreement not just as essential, but also much welcomed, Dan Ballard stressed that They would like to see it implemented as early as possible as their brothers and sisters with Tigray, Amhara, and Afar really need it.
We've been able to already start relocating refugees who were caught between factions, across the conflict lines, and we have close to 3,000 refugees, Eritrean refugees, who have now been relocated voluntarily to Alamot side in Dabat. So we see this demonstration of leadership as essential. And we indeed would like to have as much access as possible to our brothers and sisters, irrespective of where they are.
He also said that within the peace agreement and lifting of restrictions, the UNHCR can do more and better, and it's ready. It is to be recalled that National Disaster Risk Management Commissioner Shifarao Teklemariam announced it yesterday that following the signing of the peace agreement between the Ethiopian government and TPLF, the government has opened both air and road transport to supply aid to Tigray, Amhara, and Afar regions that have been affected by the war.
American journalists said African Union is becoming stronger and stronger in defending African sovereignty. The independent American journalist Anna Garrison said the African Union has become stronger in defending African sovereignty by promoting African solutions to African problems. Fukradi Zaudu has the detail of the story.
It is to be recalled that the government of Ethiopia and TPLF have signed a peace agreement last week after the peace talks conducted under the auspices of the African Union. A contributing editor at Black Agenda and host of The Listener, Cries on Pacifica Radio, and Garrison told Ethiopian news agency that the African Union has become stronger and stronger in defending African sovereignty. Appreciating the efforts of the African Union to bring a peaceful solution to the conflict in northern Ethiopia, the American journalist described the peace agreement reached between the government and TPLF as a great achievement for African solution to African problems.
The AU has been admirable from the very beginning in defending African solutions to African problems, and they never wavered. As have the African members, the current African members of the UN Security Council, were also faithful to defending Ethiopian sovereignty throughout the past 2 years. African nations on the Security Council, the African Union several times spoke to the Security Council in defense of African solutions to African problems and Ethiopia's sovereignty. So, yeah, I've seen the African Union become stronger and stronger in defending African sovereignty over some years.
The journalist stressed the need for the African Union to be self-sufficient in terms of finance in its efforts to address African problems without any external influences. Garrison also noted that the peace agreement will help Ethiopia to overcome foreign pressure, citing the bills of sanctions against Ethiopia by the U.S. officials since the peace agreement has been negotiated. According to the American journalist, Ethiopia has done a great job in this whole process in defending its sovereignty, noting that the peace agreement is a great exercise to the nation's sovereignty. She stated that she is glad that Ethiopia is taking the issue of accountability and justice into its own hands, saying that this is Ethiopians' agreement that is also being implemented by Ethiopians themselves.
I'm really sad about how much Ethiopia has lost to this war. I mean, wars are very expensive. Remember hearing the chair of the National Dialogue Commission speaking on one of your broadcast outlets, and he said, "We're losing everything to this war, our resources and our young people." And so, that it's over is great, but there's been terrific loss.
She noted the peace agreement will pave ways for Ethiopia to properly utilize its resources for economic development, adding that wars consume a great deal of national wealth. Garrison pointed out that the government needs to solicit international resources for the construction and rehabilitation of war-torn areas as part of the peace deal, taking into account the sovereignty and national integrity of the country.
Ministry of Mines and SGS are to build modern geochemistry laboratory with a cost of $50 million. The Ministry of Mines of Ethiopia and SGS, a world-leading verification, testing and certification company, has signed an agreement to build a modern mining geochemistry laboratory with a cost of $50 million in Addis Ababa. Abel Brahani has the detail of the story.
Minister for Mines and Petroleum Tackle Uma and Managing Director of SGS Ziad Oti signed the agreement on the sidelines of the International Mining and Technology Expo that kicked off on Thursday at the Millennium Hall, Addis Ababa. Minister of Mines and Petroleum Tackle Uma said during the occasion that the $50 million laboratories will play a vital role for the development of mining sector in Ethiopia. According to him, up until now, several companies, especially those in the mining sector, used to send their mineral samples abroad to get testing, verification and certification to verify the quality of their samples. He said, when operational in just a year's time, hopefully before the next Mintex exhibition, SGS's laboratory will enable mining companies that operate in Ethiopia and even Africa to get testing, verification and certification inside the country. SGS Managing Director Ziad Oti said they will immediately start to work the feasibility studies and the details needed. He added that the company will exert efforts to make the facilities ready for service as per the agreed date.
Facilities, laboratories to serve the country, help the country export more, and as soon as we have signed, we will start working on the feasibility studies and all the details that are needed, and hopefully sometime in the near future we will have the facilities here ready for the industry in Ethiopia to make use of.
Prime Minister Abiy Ahmed said Ethiopia has good relations with all neighboring countries. Ethiopia has created good diplomatic relations with all neighboring countries, including Sudan, in the efforts made over the past 3 months. Prime Minister Abiy Ahmed said, "Let's get more." The Premier made the remark in his briefings to the House of People's Representatives. He stressed that the uniqueness of Ethiopia's diplomacy is freedom, equality and fairness that will never change from time to time or government to government. Mentioning about the issue of resolving African problems by Africans themselves, the Prime Minister said all Africans have full conviction in the idea that African problems can be addressed by Africans themselves. Abiy also stressed the need for creating win-win approach with a view to registering a common victory. Ethiopia has been establishing good relations with Sudan, the Premier pointed out, indicating that the country will facilitate conducive environment to create good relations with the brotherly people of Sudan with a view to developing together. Sudan has fully been on the side of Ethiopia during the diplomatic pressures exerted on Ethiopia, he revealed, extending his gratitude to the government of Sudan.
የኛን ጎረቤቶች በሚመለከት ከኤርትራ ከጅቡቲ
As to our neighbors, efforts have been made over the past 3 months to create good relations with Eritrea, Djibouti, Somalia, Kenya, South Sudan, including Sudan. We have also seen encouraging progress in this regard. We had some disagreements with Sudan, but currently our relation with Sudan is in a better situation as things have been holding good standing.
ሱዳን የኢትዮጵያ ጋር ሆና ነው የሰራችው። በመጨረሻው ውጊያ ሱዳን ምንም አይነት ድጋፍ አላደረገችም። በጣም እናመሰግናታለን።
The Premier also thanked the neighboring African nations that have supported Ethiopia in its effort to bring lasting peace in the country. Moreover, Abiy extended gratitude to countries and governments which have supported Ethiopia in its efforts to bring peace in the country, including the government of South Africa and Kenya. He also extended thanks to former President of Nigeria, Olusegun Obasanjo, former President of Kenya, Uhuru Kenyatta, the government of America, governments of European Union countries, countries in the Middle East and Far East for their support to peace in Ethiopia. The National Defense Force is committed to implementing the peace agreement signed between the commanders of the Defense Force and TPLF in Nairobi, Kenya. National Defense Force, International Relations and Military Cooperation Director General, Major General Teshome Gamechu said, and Netanyahu has more on this account.
Briefing military attached residing in Addis Ababa on the commitment of the National Defense Force to implement the agreement, Major General Teshome stated that the Defense Force is ready to implement the agreement and would continue respecting the agreement reached. The Director General appreciated the attached for their continuous advice and support for peace and security in Ethiopia and called on them and partners to continue their respective efforts during the implementation.
As we proceed in the disengagement, disarmament, retraining, integration of armed combatant in short time to come, your overall support in training and related to technical and capacity building demonstrators and all other activities related to this peace agreement is quite vital.
Expressing the commitment of the Defense Force for lasting peace and security in the country, Major General Teshome reiterated National Defense Force's commitment and readiness to implement the agreement. According to him, the National Defense Force will continue the work that it has already started in coordination, security provision, and facilitation of humanitarian aid to Amhara, Afar, and Tigray regions. The Director General elaborated that the National Defense Force members have already begun demonstrating their affiliation to the people of Tigray by engaging in harvesting crops of farmers, raising money for people in need, providing medical service, and facilitating return of displaced people to their domicile. The military attached of embassies residing in Addis Ababa condemned the agreement reached for lasting peace. It is to be recalled that after the signing of the peace agreement between the government of Ethiopia and the TPLF in Pretoria, South Africa, this month, the commander on the two sides also agreed on the full implementation of the agreement in Nairobi, Kenya on Saturday.
Members of the House of People's Representatives said the recent peace deal reached between the government of Ethiopia and TPLF demonstrates that Ethiopians can sit down and resolve their problems peacefully. Let's get more from the story. During the fourth regular session of the House of People's Representatives, members of the House have also expressed their appreciation to the bold step taken by the government to seek a peaceful way out of the crisis in northern Ethiopia. Chairperson of Foreign Relations and Peace Affairs Standing Committee, Dima Nago, told INA that he thinks this internal development in Ethiopia is an important milestone.
Ethiopians can sit together and resolve their issues. This peace agreement has demonstrated that despite the range of difficulties, despite the wide gap between the two, Ethiopians can sit down and resolve their problems through peaceful means. I think this is a very important development for the future of our country.
The chairperson also noted it is probably one of the first governments in modern Ethiopian history to have made peace agreement with its opponents, especially armed opponents. Dima added the current government must be commended for the bold step taken to seek a peaceful way out of the crisis in northern Ethiopia. According to him, the peace deal opens wide opportunities for resolving the various problems in Ethiopia. The chairperson further underscored, there is nothing that Africans cannot solve amongst themselves. Dima observed this was done in Africa and by African mediators, by African elder statesmen, and the principle that African problems must be resolved by Africans. Despite a lot of pressure from the various elements of the international community, especially the Western countries, he noted that this peace agreement was made under the auspices of the African Union. Another member of the House of People's Representatives, Dakaria Irkola, said, "Peace is the foundation of everything and everyone benefits from peace. And the agreement reached now is the same as the government's position in seeking peace under the Pan-Africanism concept and leadership. It is of great significance for Africans to come to an agreement as we are the ones affected by the war," Zakaria said, adding that all are the beneficiaries of peace. He underlined the most important thing is to be committed to implementing the peace agreement. There is commitment on the government side. I think this will also be the position of TPLF as well. This means that turning agreements into practice requires strong commitment by ignoring controversial issues to make the peace agreement successful. The member of the parliament further noted, members of the House and all stakeholders need to support this deal and must safeguard peace. The House of People's Representative member, Ambassador Dina Mufti, said, "The government has been expressing its commitment to find solution to conflict in the northern part of the country." He stressed that to make the peace deal reached in Pretoria, South Africa, successful and implemented properly, the support of members of the House and all Ethiopians is crucial. Economic and Commercial Minister Counselor of Embassy of China in Ethiopia said, Ethiopia and China have untapped huge potential business partnership that will further enhance the existing economic cooperation in various sectors. Take a look. In an exclusive interview with Ethiopian News Agency, the Economic and Commercial Minister Counselor Yang Yuhang said, the two nations have untapped economic potential which needs to be further expanded. According to him, efforts have been made to encourage and promote more Chinese companies to engage in business activities in Ethiopia with a view to enhancing the cooperation and friendship between the two countries in not only now but also in the future. Yang stated the Chinese government believes that there is a big potential between the countries for bilateral cooperation, noting that Chinese investors have been engaged in a lot of projects in collaboration with their Ethiopian partners. He expressed his hope through the cooperation between Chinese companies and relevant partners that Ethiopia will have another landmark project. Yang hopes through the cooperation between Chinese companies and relevant partners of the Ethiopian side, they will provide another landmark project for Addis Ababa. With regard to trade and investment cooperation between the two countries, Yang said, there is a big potential especially in coffee, soybean, sesame, among others in the agricultural sector. The Economic and Commercial Minister Counselor revealed that these agricultural products of Ethiopia have big demand in Chinese market. He added that they are happy to work with partners to promote Ethiopian agricultural products export to Chinese market. He further called on Chinese investors to expand more investment in Ethiopia, especially in the energy, pharmaceutical and agricultural sectors. Yang elaborated that through these kinds of investment ties, the cooperation between the two countries will be more enhanced in contributing economical and social development for them. He stressed that the two developing countries with their big population have big potential for the economic cooperation. The Economic and Commercial Minister Counselor noted Ethiopia is a conducive destination for investment, especially for Chinese investors, and so far China is the biggest economic partner and the largest foreign direct investment resource for Ethiopia. Yang also said Ethiopia has a market advantage as the market is huge and the country is at the center of the African continent and conducive for foreign investors. This is all for today. You have been watching Grand Stories of Amhara Media Corporation English Service, and the next is The View.
We work very closely as United Nations with the government of Ethiopia. As we speak now, we have as UNHCR, as UN agencies, we have teams in Shire, We have teams in Mekelle who are delivering support to our brothers and sisters. We've got teams in Samara. We have teams in Gondar, in Desi, in all these places. We have teams that are delivering for our brothers and sisters. What we would like to see is, as early as possible, greater access to these areas. For UNHCR, we already have been able to go to my Sabri with the Government Refugees and Returnees Service, our main partner here. We've been able to already start relocating refugees who were caught between factions, across the conflict lines. And we have close to 3,000 refugees, Eritrean refugees, who have now been relocated voluntarily to Alamot site in Dabat. So we see this demonstration of leadership as essential, and we indeed would like to have as much access as possible to our brothers and sisters, irrespective of where they are on the territory. People are relieved that there is that there is an end to the conflict. People are relieved, and we should be supporting them. Let's have the peace dividend works. Let's support the government, the authorities, NGOs, the UN, as they are moving into supporting population, civilians, refugees, persons in need of protection, internally displaced people, not only to resume normal life without fear, but also to be able to really start reconstruction. Education needs are there, health needs are there, shelter needs are there, water and sanitation needs are there. These are all needs that need our support, our attention. And our attention, as I was saying earlier, is about within Tigray, in all part of Tigray. It is within Afar, in all part of Afar. It is Amhara, in all part of Amhara. Looking at where we have the biggest needs, for example, at the borders between Amhara, Afar, and Tigray. So this is our work as the United Nations, and as UNHCR, this is a priority for us. We are already supporting thousands of Ethiopians who were displaced by the conflict in South Wollo, in North Wollo, in northern Gondar, in Wading, in all these places around Sekota areas. We are working on that. And also within Tigray, we have been supporting people to return, and sometimes with cash assistance. We believe that with the peace agreement and lifting of restrictions such as amount of cash that someone can carry, the number of movement that you can do, we can do more and better. And the United Nations is ready, UNHCR is ready as part of that family to contribute to these efforts. And the strengthened and the very strong partnership we have with the governmental authorities to reach brothers and sisters, irrespective of where they are, is a critical element of this. My office is ready to support as much as we can. We have capabilities, we have human beings, we have sometimes some financial support that we have been providing and that we will be continuing to provide. I know that the reconstruction needs are huge. The suffering has been massive. People have lost their houses, and this is an area where UNHCR contribute to. People have been losing, you have had a large amount of gender-based violence, sexual and gender-based violence. You've got need for people to have access to education and few others. So for UNHCR as an agency, but also as part of the UN family, we get ready to support as much as we can. We need the support of the international community. And I think from whatever we hear, people are welcoming the agreement. I think let's have it implemented for the benefit of the people of Ethiopia. This is the work that is underway, And I do believe that we would like to have more detailed information about the agreement and how it is going to be implemented. And we understand that there are ongoing discussions in Nairobi. As we speak now this afternoon, after this interview, I'm going to meet with the Commissioner for EDRMC, who is going to tell us additional information. When can we fly to Shire? When can we fly to Mekele? Some of the medical supplies that we are going to provide. We are already helping people, to return out of South Wollo, North Wollo, but to what? Where they need education, where they need infrastructure. So all of that work, but also it's not only hard infrastructure, it's about supporting with the regional bureaus, for example, around the mental health and psychosocial support. It's about helping people rebuild what already is in existence. So I would say quite a lot of things ahead. But we are ready to partner with the government, with our donor partners, to be able to contribute positively to help our sisters and brothers who have suffered. We are glad that there is a peace agreement, and that's what matters the most. As the United Nations, we've been an observer. The United Nations Secretary General has been saying that we are supportive of the AU-led process, and this is what we have been indicating as the United Nations. This is our call to support the AU-led process. It was great to have several statesmen coming in support of Ethiopia, between Ethiopians. And I would say the result is very helpful, and let's support the implementation. And we hope that the implementation, as I said again, is as quick as possible, not for the benefit of others, but for the benefit of Ethiopians themselves and for our brothers and sisters who live in Ethiopia, including refugees. Solidarity towards Ethiopia is necessary. It is important. Ethiopia is a country that has been hosting refugees for decades, for centuries. Ethiopia's role in the international fora is critical. As UNHCR, we are supportive of efforts underway. We would like to see the peace agreement implemented for the benefit of people in Ethiopia, and we know that this is going to halt some suffering that has been happening and that has affected people's communities. As we speak, we've got our teams in Shire, in Desi, in Gondar, in Dabad, in Samara, in Mekele. We just need people have been relieved. Support